Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us one of our favorite returning guests, Hotep Jesus, fresh off a successful appearance on Joe Rogan. I didn't even know you were going to be on Rogan when I booked you to do this. I was just looking through past guests. I'm like, I have not talked to him in a minute, and we always have a great conversation. So welcome back to the show.
You know, when you hit me, I'm like, he must know I'm going on Rogan.
Nope. It's some Illuminati type stuff, huh?
It's definitely some Illuminati type stuff. You must be clairvoyant or something.
So you live in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So how is the culture like in Jersey as if you came here to Austin? Is it as bad in Jersey as when I left last summer with all the COVID stuff and all the Karen nonsense?
Well, it was never actually that bad.
Okay.
It wasn't as bad as New York, I would say. And I never visited New York. So I'm speaking theoretically. But when I spoke to my New York homies, they were basically saying if you were outside of the tourist areas such as Times Square, Soho, maybe even the Village, nobody's really like, they put the signs on the door that say, hey, these are our mandates. But you walked into the deli and they were still serving it, right? In Jersey, I think the only thing we had to worry about was the mask situation. Some places were like, hey, you got to put on your mask before you walk in here. But it always wasn't mandated. Like I would walk into places without my mask on and wait till somebody said something. And it wasn't that often initially. And then it just became less and less required. Just the other day I went to a shop and the door said mask mandatory. I walked in and nobody said anything, right? So I think a lot of businesses were just putting those signs up just to look compliant. But on the ground, people weren't exactly compliant unless you went into like something like a chain restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Something that had corporate backing that could take the loss of people potentially. So here's one thing that did happen. I like to visit the Korean spa. So I went to go book an appointment and the Korean spa was like, yo, you got to have the vacation. And I'm like, what? Click. Like, I need that to go visit the Korean spa. Like, so outside of that, I didn't have any problems, vacation problems.
I screwed up the intro. Let's do some one-on-one stuff. I assumed everybody audience knows who you are, which they should. Can you explain to people what the Hotep was? It movement, ideology? I don't know what the term you would use.
Yeah. We are the Black people that the progressives tried to hide.
Yeah.
Right? They try to act like in fact, not even try to hide, they try to erase us. So if you want a very clear example of this, right? So a lot of conservatives will say, well, how come the Black people don't know about how illegal immigration is hurting them and hurting America? Well, if you go on the website called The Root talks about how illegal immigration hurts Black America, right? The articles still exist there. The funny thing is we just covered this last night on our show, that's been told you, but when I typed in the exact title of the article on theroot.com, it is the last result that pops up. It's like they went in and specifically designed the search engine to pigeonhole that blog post. You can find it on Google, etc. But since that article was posted in 2010, but since The Root has been purchased by HuffPo, and when it was purchased by HuffPo, you started getting articles like Black men are the white people of Black people, right?
Wait.
Okay, Black men are the white people of Black people.
What is okay. I'm sorry, but aren't Black women the white men of Black people? Black women go to college at higher rates, have higher get less unemployment. If you're going to do that, am I wrong?
You're absolutely correct. And in fact, I did write a counter argument that said, well, if we're going to go down this wild road of calling Black people white people, which is just crazy, then it would be Black women.
Yeah.
Because they're signing up for college at higher rates than most people, regardless of race. But that's the argument they try to make, was that, Black men are the white people of Black people, right? So this was coming on the heels of BLM, which is basically an attack on men, specifically Black men. The patriarchy, as they would say. Like, for example, when I went on that website and I was exposing them in the past, and I was easily able to expose them because I just read the website and it said mothers, parents, children. I was like, wait, mothers, parents, you mean fathers?
Yeah.
Right. So you saw that erasure of Black men. But you saw this also in hip hop. Like hip hop, I always say, used to be Hotep. We're talking about 90s. It was very conscious, uplifting black music. And then like commercial rap came around, and it was all about Bentleys and diamonds and chains and money and all that stuff. Not to say that stuff didn't happen in hip hop. It just that became the prevalent thing, right? Commercialism, I guess you would say. But the black community had very like Hotepish leaders. Like you remember Donahue. Donahue would have somebody on like Khaled Muhammad, right? Or you had leaders like H. Rap Brown. And then these guys sort of disappeared, and the new Negro came about, which was, I guess the archetype for that would be like Barack Obama, right?
Right.
Very clean cut, respectability politics type situation, blah, 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 right? Very Martin Luther Kingish. So then that came about. And then I think what happened was you have like real black love or how do I say this? Let's just call it nationalism, right?
Sure.
You have real black nationalism, and you have like this fake black nationalism. The fake black nationalism is what you see now amongst the black progressives, where it's like everything's the white man's fault and we can't do anything until the white man takes his foot off our neck. Whereas real black nationalism, Hotep, is like, we're not even talking about the white man, right? We're talking about, holistic eating and supreme mathematics and biology and all these things is like really conscious. We're studying the molecule melanin, right? And we were the ones that introduced that to progressives, and that was just one of the worst things we could ever do, because they've just destroyed the word and what it means. But yeah, so there was a clear attack by the progressives to erase what I would say could even be called black conservatism, right? And not your black conservatism where they're buck dancing for Republicans, just the ideology of being conservative. For example, when we saw the instances of the murder of Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin and all that stuff, people were like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, practice black capitalism, buy black, produce black, and let's just focus on ourselves. Let's build our economy. Like, what do we produce? What is our GNP, right? Like, let's start there. So in having that more empowering take for a solution, they labeled me Hotep. And I'm like, wait, Hotep means peace or satisfaction. You can't, we used to say in a black conscious community, we used to say Hotep as a greeting, and then they turned it into a pejorative. So me not liking that, our movement, we grabbed the name Hotep and exalted it and said, all right, I'm a Hotep. Now I'm Hotep. And then they called me Hotep Jesus, and that whole thing came about, and it went from Hotep Lives Matter to Hotep Nation. And then here we are now, hotepnation.com, trying to restore, really like one of our focuses is, outside of nurturing a homeschooling community, is telling white people the real for real, right? Like, this is what the black progressives say and about what black people feel and so on and so forth. And it's just like, when you watch Hotep's Been Told, you're getting the real for real. You're getting blackness, but you're getting black conservatism. We call it straight down the middle. It's none of what these, progressives are talking about. Oh, please help us. No, it's none of that stuff, So we try to give people a real window into what it's like to really be black, and not these black progressives who have no proximity to black people.
I remember Donahue many years ago, he had someone called the Black Avenger. I forget the guy's name, Ken something. Mm-hmm. And he was saying many of the things you're saying. And I remember at one point he held up his credit card and he goes, look, if you have this, that can never be taken away from you. And the whole audience laughed at him. But the point he was making is perfectly valid. You and I are pals. We get along. I would never want to be in a position that if we had beef, I could screw up things for you and your family, and vice versa. Nor should your happiness or be contingent on me liking you. That's crazy. But crazy. If you take it to a societal level, that you have the entire black population, that we're only going to be successful as long as these white people feel like it, even though for hundreds of years they've been spitting at us and calling us subhuman, that is guaranteed to be defeated. You can't have your entire sense of self be contingent on strangers. It's not going to happen.
No, absolutely not. It's in fact, it's a distraction. It also creates, it strips you of your power, and it creates a sense of dependency, right?
Because, and it's emasculating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's even paternal.
Yeah.
It's very paternal, because now it's like, I'm dependent on you to release me from this bondage. I'm dependent on you to nurture me, to support me, right? And it's just like, no, we can do this thing just fine on ourselves, right? And that's like another thing is like I study a lot of European history and monetary policy. And then by the time you get into that stuff, you like, shit, you think black people ain't free, white people ain't free. Right? When you start getting down to the nitty gritty, and you also see that white people haven't been free for a very long time. You know, whether we're talking about Europe, feudal Europe, communist Europe, or communist America, right? Especially, let's just talk about America. White men ain't never been free in this country. And I know a lot of people can't handle that, but hey, it's just the truth.
You earlier took a shot at Black conservatives who are kind of doing a song and dance for the Republican Party. Can you explain a bit more what you are referring to by that?
Yeah, I think, again, you're dealing with Black people who have low proximity or no proximity to actual Black people. I would call them white Blacks. They're white Black people. They talk white. And I know some people say, oh, you can't talk white. Yeah, kiss my ass. Yes, you can.
Wait a minute. Are white Black people the Black women of Asians?
Actually, yeah, they would be. In many ways, they would be like the Asian population because they do very well for themselves. Most Black conservatives do very well for themselves.
That's
right?
true.
You being conservative actually aligns you with doing well for yourself because you're not looking outside of yourself, right? But I mean, there's just a certain archetype where there is no Black consciousness. There is no loyalty to Black people. It's like, they don't even want to be Black until there's some incentive, right? Like being a Black conservative is like, oh wow, you're like an anomaly, right? You're rare. So like, yeah, I'm a Black conservative, but then you turn around and then they say, oh, well, I don't want to play race politics, right? And it's just like, well, you got to pick one.
Right, yeah.
That's inconsistent, right? You can't say you're a Black conservative and then say we want to drop these identities. And it's like, no, like either you're conservative or you're Black or you're, like you can't play those games, right? So, but yeah, a lot of times my thing is also these people call themselves Christian, right? And Christian, you're supposed to have empathy for life and loss of life, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems like every time something happens with Black people and police, they take the state side. And I'm just like, removing race from the situation completely, you call yourself a Christian. If somebody was murdered, you're supposed to have some sort of sympathy. You're not supposed to just be like, well, let's go look up his criminal record. It's like, whoa, like, whose side are you on here? And that's another thing, like conservatives will say, you're not Black, you're an American. All right, cool, that's fine. But whose side are you on now? If I say I'm an American, are you on the state side or are you on the people's side? Because it seems like every time a Black person is slain by the police, you guys are saying, well, we are initially saying that you are guilty before you are found innocent, because this is why I'm going into your background to pull up your record to prove that you were a criminal. So they take the state side. And this is why I said before, there's no such thing as left and right. I said this on Rogan, there's no such thing as left and right. Really what we're dealing with is a sphere, and people are just different coordinates in the sphere. And at the center of the sphere is anarchy, right? Complete absolution of the state, if I said that correctly. And then the further you get out, it's more statist you get, right? So people are just different coordinates of statism, right? There is no left and right. It's just like, on this particular policy, we want the government to be involved, like abortion. The conservatives, I want the government to be involved in this. And then the progressives want the, government to be involved in other ways, like welfare or healthcare or whatever it is. But everybody's just different levels of being a statist, right? So my thing is, whose side are we on? Are we on the people's side or are we on the state side? And with Black conservatives, it just seems like it's a grift, right? It's just like, can I stick to the talking points? If I stick to the talking points, Fox News will have me on more. I'll get more bookings. My booking fee goes up. I'll get more donations. I maybe even want to run for office. I can sell some books. And it's just like really not a whole lot of substance there. It's just all talking points and statism.
Guys, I love being able to promote Fume, because when I'm promoting Fume, I'm promoting you regaining control of your health. Fume is one of the best ways to help people quit smoking and vaping. A fume is made of a 100% Canadian maple. They have these cores you stick in the end with plant oils, which help you curb cravings. Most importantly, it helps you deal with that hand-to-mouth habit that smokers have. That ritual aspect is very hard for people to quit. This is a great step in between smoking and going cold turkey, which a lot of people can't handle. Smoking is expensive. It ruins your teeth. It makes your clothes smell, and it's trashy. Get control of your health by using Fume. They've helped over 50,000 people quit smoking. There's no smoke. There's no moving parts. It looks like a steampunk vape, and it's really, really cool. If you keep vaping and smoking, you're going to look like Dave Smith. Is that what you want? No one wants that. It's the worst thing imaginable, other than, I guess being like Tom Woods. If you go to breathefume.com, breathefum.com/malice, and use promo code malice, you get 10% off your entire order. That's breathefum.com/malice, and use promo code malice for 10% off. Folks, bodyguards, cases, and screens protect your phone so you don't have to worry. You pick up your phone 60, 100 times a day. You take it with you everywhere. Your phone has your whole life on it. My phone is cracked. I am not happy to have to admit this. Bodyguards has been protecting phones and mobile devices for almost 20 years. The cases are engineered to protect your phone from 8, 10, or even 12-foot drops. They're slim, pocket-friendly. They've got tons of colors and styles to choose from. And since they're all designed by Bodyguards team in the U.S., they're built for protection and style. Remember, when a screen protector breaks, it's saving your phone. Bodyguards knows this, so they offer free replacements for the life of your device. You only pay shipping. It's the only brand to have 2 products with the official green product mark certification. When you buy from Bodyguards, a portion of your purchase supports their charity foundation, which is a great thing. Bodyguards helps you protect your phone, protect the planet, protect the future of children here and abroad. Go to bodyguards.com/welcome to protect your phone today. That's bodyguards with a Z at the end, .com/welcome to start protecting your valuable phone today. I'm glad they sent me some to use now because I sure could have used them before I cracked my damn phone. Let's get back to the show. Well, it just seems that there's a little bit of substance there. And the substance is there's certain people who I think you and I would agree on that they can't wait to get in front of Twitter or the camera and say, well, it's the black person's fault. And it basically kind of absolves a lot of boomers of this low-key background racism.
Yes.
And they're there to tell you it's okay that you had this knee-jerk prejudice reaction. Here's the ex post facto validation.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They always immediately say, okay, these people are guilty. Right.
And deserved what happened to them.
And deserve what happened to them. Yeah. So, for example, when we look at somebody like Mike Brown, right? And I always say Mike Brown was murdered, and people will say, he wasn't murdered. He robbed a convenience store. And I'm like, okay, let's say that's true. Is a Snicker bar worth somebody's life?
Right.
Did the cop, did he deserve to die at the hands of the cops? Yeah, well, he fought back. And it's like, all right, cool. What about Trayvon Martin? What about Tamir Rice? You guys claim these people are Americans. Where were you when Tamir Rice was murdered in cold blood in a park for playing with a toy gun? And you people
was he like 11? He was like 11 or 12, right?
Yeah, it was a little boy. I think it was like 12, 13 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But visibly a little boy. And when you watch the video, the cop is hopping out of the car, firing his weapon, and the car hasn't even slowed down yet. This is like some Dukes of Hazzard hunting nigga type shit. I don't know. Not to say Dukes of Hazzard was hunting.
Well, for those who don't know this case, because it kind of didn't get as much attention as some of the others, Tamir Rice was a kid. He was in a park by himself. Mm-hmm. He had a toy gun. He was waving it around. He wasn't even pointing at anything. He was literally waving like a toy sword.
Right.
Someone called the cops on him, and then the cop, as you just said, drives up and shoots him.
Yeah.
It's immediately. So there wasn't even like a pause, like, let me look what's going on here. This is a kid. He's not pointing a gun at any person. No one was in danger.
Right. Trayvon Martin, they'll hop through loops to say that George Zimmerman had a plausible reason to do what he did, right? But again, this is just what they do because they got to stick to the talking points. It's low-key racist, da, 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 da. And I like to look at things on a case-by-case basis and remove race. Was the cop right? Was the cop wrong? Because sometimes I'll be looking at the video like, yeah, I probably would have stayed still. I wouldn't, because I know how hard it is to be a cop, right? When you leave your house every day, your life is on the line. And I tell people all the time, shit, you're mad because this cop bust somebody's ass. If I was a cop, shit, you know, I'm going home to my family. I'm not taking any chances. So I'm busting my gap, right? So when I see another cop do that, I know that they're operating from a place of fear, and it's got to be hard. But are there some cases where I'm like who was the dude that was passed out drunk in the fast food line, right?
I don't know the story.
Yeah, there's a dude passed out drunk in the Wendy's line. They wake him up, they bring him over, they park him in the parking spot, they pull him out the car. They tell him he's going to be arrested, all these things. He picks up, they're trying to arrest him. He's shuffling, he's fighting. He grabs the taser. He's running away from them. He turns around. They pursue him on foot. He aims the taser at the cop. They fire, they kill him, right? I forget what case that was, but I'm looking at how the cops managed it. And I'm like, first of all, I could have handled this situation by myself a lot better. If I wanted to arrest somebody, the first thing I would have done was say, hey, have a seat on this curb. It's a lot harder to arrest somebody when they're standing than when they're sitting on the curb. Because you try to I'm just going to nudge you, right? You try to get up off the curb, I'm just going to push you, just going to keep falling down. And then, you know, we can do that until I put you in handcuffs. So like, it's just a lot of like little things that I know in each circumstance. And also true, it's like, I also look at this thing like, was this guy a threat to the community? Because if this guy isn't a threat to the community, me as a cop, I'm saying to myself, this guy was drunk. He was passed out in a Wendy's, drive-through line. He pulled over. I'm going to be like, look, get in the back of the car. Let me take you home. Where's your home? I'm going to write your ass a ticket maybe. But get in my car. I'm taking you home. Not the whole like, hey, you know, we got to arrest you. And then, you know, and if you're running away, right, with a taser and you're aiming it at me, I'll just stop, right? And then you're running like you're not, where are you going to go? Like, where are you going to go? Like, we're going to find you. I have your car. We're going to find you. I don't need to pursue you, right? You're some drunk. Like, I could probably wait for you to get tired.
It's not going to take long.
It's not good.
Any of us who've been drunk and ran know you're not, the stamina is zero.
It's like zero.
This is not Jackie Joyner Kersey.
Right. So I could have radioed in and said, yeah, he's walking out such and such street. He's probably going to make a left here. Go catch it. Right. But like, I don't know. So I look at everything by case basis and not necessarily by race. Now, are there instances of racist cops? Absolutely. I would never say that. But I look at things from case by case basis, but it seems like everybody else is like, black man, cop, which side of the progressives on? Oh, the progressives on the black guy side? All right, we got to take the complete opposite side, right? And that's what it comes down to.
I've made this point many times, and I'm glad you came to the same conclusion. So much of American conservatism is just reacting to whatever the progressives came up with, and just we're the opposite of that. And what's hilarious is, as progressives contradict themselves, the conservatives do the flips also, and then they start contradicting themselves with no sense of irony. It's one of the most frustrating. But once you see it, you're like, okay, this is your identity. Like, I'm against the liberals. It's like, okay, what does that even mean? Because they're not for anything, just for more power.
Which basically puts them in a driver's seat for society.
Yes, of course. If you're always reacting, you're the woman in the back seat, your mother-in-law in the back seat of the car yelling, "No, don't make this turn." This is, but he's still driving the car. Yell all you want. In fact, that's funny. I just thought of that. That's literally the slogan of National Review: standing athwart history, yelling, "Stop, stop, stop." Oh yeah, cool. I'm still driving the car, and it's my car.
Yeah.
Yell all you want, bitch.
Right. And then you look at, and this is why I feel bad for conservatives, because they have poor leadership, right? Mm-hmm. And prior to the internet, your leadership was limited to media pundits and politicians. Now you have a new class, which I call the grifter class or the influencer class, right? So this has, before, to be media, I mean, shit, it took a lot to become Tucker Carlson, right? You got to climb the rungs, put a lot of work in, be a politician, you got to go to law school and all this other stuff, right? You had to know something. To be a grifter, the only thing you need to know are the talking points. That's it. So which really lowers the bar, makes every single topic low intellect. So what happens is the grifter, what they do is they get online and they wait. And they check the trending topics and they see, what did the progressives do today? and then they react, then the engagement comes, then they monetize the engagement. But again, the progressives are in the driver's seat.
Right.
And that's the dangerous part of all this, is the fact that there is no agenda amongst conservatives. There are some principles they may have. They may hold tightly to 1, 2, and 3 of the Constitution. But outside of that, what is the agenda of the day? Why not come online and say, yo, today, like I said on the Rogan, today's heterosexual day, or, today's family day, or here's the trending topic. Like, that's why I love what Mike Cernovich used to do back in the day. Mike Cernovich used to have stuff like trending all the time, although it was mostly reactionary to what progressives were doing of the day, but still there was some control, right? And I think that, if conservatives ignored progressives to a certain extent, right, until it reaches the policy level, maybe, a lot of because the first court is the court of public opinion, right? So if I say, hey, I want to change children's genders, the first thing that's going to happen is going to be discussed on social media. It takes the participation of the conservatives for the conversation to have
you're right.
Any traction, right? Because you need an opponent. You need somebody to contradict your side to give it even validity or merit, right? So if you ignored it, it would never even make it to the policy level because it hasn't been weighed, discussed. In fact, the progressives need you to argue online so they know your arguments. So when it gets to the court level, they already studied your arguments. They already have the data and everything and the arguments prepared. They also have the arguments prepared from all their little think tanks and all their little underlings to come up with rebuttals for everything you say online. So you kind of like give them data. I would say a lot of times we need to just ignore what they're doing and build our society and ignore theirs. That's why they own big tech, because they're so busy building and we're over here reacting.
Hey guys, your welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Now, most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you could be doing right now, getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy. You could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts for having multiple vehicles in your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. Folks, your health is being bought and sold to the highest bidder. Lobbyists are fighting to make sure they don't have competition and you won't have options. That's where Crowd Health comes in. Crowd Health helps put your healthcare decisions back in your hands, saving you money and cutting out the middleman. It's not insurance. It's what insurance should be. And that's why it works. There's no deductibles. There's no networks. There's no copays. You see any doctor you want. You pay the first $500 and you submit any bills from there. The Crowd Health community takes care of the rest. It's a new way to pay for healthcare without premiums or deductibles or surprises. All you got to do is you pay one low monthly total to fund your account. It's less than $200 a month for most people. 100% of your contribution directly funds and reduces the healthcare cost of the community. You're not limited by doctor networks. They succeed by keeping its members happy. They help members shop for great care at a fair price. They make payments to doctors as quickly as possible. And they, Crowd Health, negotiates on the community's behalf when unexpected bills arise, which reverses those incentives that gets the healthcare system into this mess in the first place. Stop paying health insurance companies for your hard-earned dollars. Go to joincrowdhealth.com now. Experience freedom health insurance. Right now, your first 6 months, just $99 a month, almost 50% off the normal price, and a lot less than a high-deductible healthcare plan. Just go to joincrowdhealth.com and use promo code WELCOME at sign up. That's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code WELCOME. Crowd Health is not health insurance. It's a totally different way of paying for healthcare. Terms and conditions may apply. Let's get back to the show. I think the Hoteps might be the only group that hates the communists as much as I do. It's true. You guys really do not stop going after them. And I think that's very commendable, obviously. BLM is often described as being an organization founded by Marxists. You earlier were criticizing them and saying it was kind of a phony, fallacious movement. It's amazing how we solved the problem of police brutality in 2020. Now that Donald Trump's not in the White
Completely
House,
gone.
it's all
Yeah.
gone. Like
You haven't
everyone's
seen him.
quiet at home. There's no problems in all 50 states and across the world. It's just the Black lives all of a sudden matter now. Can you go into more your thoughts or the Hotep perspective on that whole movement?
So I was privy to it early on, right? And like sometimes people look at my channel and they say, "Oh, you got 60,000 some subscribers. Why is the engagement not there?" And it's because I was very, Black conscious, pro-Black in the very beginning, and then BLM came around, and I spoke to Darren Sills, who was murdered, and on the ground in Ferguson. And this is something I tell conservatives as well. They say, "Oh, well, BLM started rioting at the very beginning in Ferguson." I'm like, that's not true. Just like your January 6th was co-opted, the beginnings at Ferguson were co-opted. And Darren Sills spoke about this because they marched. Did they march? They absolutely did, but they marched peacefully. And what happened was there were even he even said they were Caucasian guys who would toss things at the police. And then the local Ferguson community was doing security on these white kids that were coming out of nowhere, because obviously it was getting a lot of publicity. So in hindsight, I'm like, those are probably Antifa type operatives, right? So they were kicking these white boys' ass. Like, yo, stop. Like, you're ruining what we're trying to do here. And then later on came the blue check Negroes, and the monetary checks came. And he said he remembers seeing, I believe it was DeRay, receiving checks while they were covering, the media was covering da-da-da-da. So mysteriously, Darren Sills was murdered. So I was covering all this, and I had a pretty big platform. I had a voice into the Black community at the time. And people were like, "Oh, you're just hating. You're hating on DeRay. You're hating on this. You're hating on that." And I'm like, nah, y'all can't see the jokes. You can't see the coup. You can't see the takeover. You can't see. So I lost a lot of people. I would say the majority of the people that I gained over that time period, I basically lost on YouTube, right? I watched subscribers drop by the thousands because I was exposing BLM for what they were. And then later on, you get the Soros information popped up and all that stuff, and you find out that they're Marxists. And at the time, I had no idea what it meant to be Marxist, whatever. And I've since done a ton of research to understand this thing. But at the time, I just knew this was some fake shit. So I made a video that said, Black Lives Matter is the gay agenda. And oh man, they lit into my ass. And then that's when the homophobia and all that shit started and all that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. My dad's from Jamaica, so I'm already, I have homophobia built into me at a very young age, right?
But I think you also had some racism built into you at a young age, because I know a
Massively.
lot of friends who are but against American Blacks. I know a lot of Caribbean Americans and people from Africa who really look at African Americans and the things they say. I'm like, oh, you are racist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was racist against everybody. I was racist somewhat against Black Americans, definitely against white folks for a very long time. Yeah. So that was kind of instilled in me. And it takes a lot of, I think, autodidaction to eliminate that stuff.
Yeah.
Like Shaka Agmo says, he seems like the more somebody educates himself, the less racist they become, because you kind of just understand the world more.
And because it's such a simplistic worldview that you look at someone going to fill in a slot. It's like how many counter positives do you need to kind of be like, this theory doesn't work?
Right. And that's the thing.
And most people are shitty. Like most books are shitty. Most stand-ups are shitty. Most movies are shitty. But that doesn't mean movies are terrible. It just means you look for the good ones.
Right. You look for the good ones. Yeah. And that's what I realized early on, because Hotep Nation was like, we were like Black supremacists, damn near. At least I was. And then Uncle Hotep was like, nah, y'all missing out on this white conservative thing, right? I didn't know what it was. So when we opened it up to white folks, I gained friends. Like I gained Chad as a friend. Like I hadn't had a white friend since like high school, right? So, it was just like amazing to see like Hotep Nation could not be built without white people. And it just comes down to let's judge each individual by their character. It's just that simple, right? Instead of trying to say, oh, you're black, like choosing somebody and say, hey, you're black. It's just like you open yourself up to infiltration. I mean, every single black group was infiltrated with a black entity, Black Panthers, whatever group you want to talk about. So just because somebody is black makes them more of an agent than if they were white.
Yeah,
because they can disguise themselves. Pass. Yeah, they can pass. Yeah. I don't know what we were originally talking about.
We're talking about how you saying the BLM was the gay agenda, and you had a
lot. Oh yeah. Yeah. So so here's the good part. The good part was because I was exposing BLM, I was blocked by the majority of Black Twitter, or the new Black Twitter that was starting to come about. So when the Trump era came about and I was saying the things I was saying, I couldn't be mass reported because nobody was seeing me on that side. So hilarious. I kind of had a shield between me and the Black progressives. I was completely blocked off from that side of the internet. So the only people that saw it were white conservatives, which is in hindsight was a good thing.
But do you, speaking of when you said BLM's the gay agenda, do you think that, I know your answer, but I want to hear your thoughts behind it. Do you think that there's an intentional assault on masculinity in America? And do you think that that's disproportionately attacking masculinity within the Black community?
Yeah. I also think it's a desire to create homogeneity.
Yeah.
So it's beyond they're trying to take human beings and erase the idea of gender. So you just have one type of drone, right? This is just a human being, right? And to completely eliminate individuality and identity. Like individuality is like the antithesis to Marxism, right? So again, it's beyond, you have to look at the ultimate agenda. The ultimate agenda to make everybody the same, make everybody think the same, make everybody believe the same things. Again, this is that whole Orwell 1984 type like situation. Right, like a beehive, exactly. And that's why I said to people, I said, it's good to have different tribes because then they can't intercept them with the thoughts, right? Because if this group thinks one way, the propaganda machine has to target each and every group individually. But when you have everybody thinking the same, you only need to intercept one mind. And you infect the entire group. So that's how I look at that agenda. And the funny thing is, when they told me I was homophobic, prior to that, I ran a website, entertainment website, and the staff was one woman, Black woman, and I want to say, no, 2 Black women, 5 gay men. I covered the hip hop. They covered some of the hip hop, but they covered like pop. Like it was like Britney Spears stuff and all of that. But they were gay men. I had no problem with gay people. Like I didn't see them as a problem. I didn't see them as like, this is somebody I hate. Or I was used to working with gays when I worked in a restaurant. This kid named Italo worked with us, and we all knew he was gay. And jokingly, I'd be like, "Hey, boo," when he walked into work, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't have no problem with, gay people. So when they said I was homophobic, I'm like, do y'all even know my history? Like, my whole staff, and even the gay people I know were like, I don't like this gay agenda. Like, they see it. The gay people I know are like, there's a gay agenda. This shit's not cool. The gay people I know wish they weren't gay. They like, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, is what they're saying to me, right? They hate this thing, they wish they were straight. And I've even had some people say to me, like, I know my behavior, what's the exact word he used? I forget what it was, but it's just like, defunct and anti-Christian, right? Or whatever. But so I don't hate gays. The T people scare me. I will say that. I may be T-phobic.
Because sometimes they pass. That's what scares you.
Dude, I was in Miami.
Yeah, that's why I knew it. I fucking knew it. I hit that nail on the head.
Dog. I was in Miami walking down the street and I seen this fine ass woman. And I walked up to her and we got to talking and I shook her hand. But the hand shook me back. And I was like, whoa, wait. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, this motherfucker's 6'2". And I was never afraid of dating tall girls, right? Like I
You're
was
just scared of strong black women who don't need no man. Admit it.
bro. So I said to the motherfucker, I said, "Are you a man?" And he cussed me out. And I was like, pew, I'm out of here. Just jetted. Because if finally, like the more I'm looking at him, I'm starting to see the features. But from far away, look beautiful. But yeah, the T people kind of scare me in that aspect. And also, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you like yourself, right? Like, I don't know. And then you start seeing the people post-transition starting to say they regret it because they did it at a young age and all of that. But it's more or less of an empathetic, sympathetic thing where, like, I want you to love yourself and not need to cut your body parts off. And let's figure out what that is and make you, because I feel like there's some trauma, maybe childhood, that brought you to that. But whatever, neither here nor there.
Hey guys, underwear model and official alpha male hunk, Michael Malice here, and I want to talk to you about Sheath underwear, which is the underwear I wear every single day without fail, even somehow when I'm going commando. What makes Sheath underwear so great? Well, let me tell you. They've got this dual pouch system, which has one pouch for one part of your male anatomy, another part for another part of your male anatomy, and you put it on the first time, and you're like, this is kind of weird to have my underwear gripping me down there. But I'm going to tell you, it is the most comfortable underwear you're ever going to wear. It's great when it's hot outside. It's great when there's no sticking, no chafing. It keeps you nice and tight. These boxer briefs are the best. They've got some new additions. They got a mesh one. They got a bamboo one. And they have the limited edition Michael Malice Dynamite pair, which you're definitely going to want to wear. All you got to do is go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice. And you get 20% off, and you can get inside my pants, and you get one step closer to going higher on that alpha male hierarchy, which all my listeners like. Now, they also have a line for women, but since women don't listen to this show, that is of no relevance. All you got to do is go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice to get 20% off. Support the underwear that supports you and supports the show. Hey guys, you ever feel like you're being followed around the internet and maybe advertisers know a bit too much about you? Well, our sponsor, IPVanish VPN, is here to help you take back your privacy and help you become anonymous on the internet. What is it? IPVanish is a virtual private network, a VPN for short. It's a tool that helps you safely browse the internet. You can use a VPN on your computer, tablet, phone, things like your Fire Stick when you stream media. When you use a VPN, all your data is encrypted. What you're reading, what you're searching, what you're watching, whatever you're doing. And that's important because what you're doing is no one's business but yours. For listeners of the show, IPVanish is offering 65% off their annual plan. It's only $375 a month. IPVanish is super easy to use. You turn it on with one click. It runs in the background, helping to protect you while you're browsing the web. You run into a problem, no problem. IPVanish has 24/7 support by email, chat, and phone. Go to ipvanish.com/malice and use promo code Malice. That's MALICE to claim your 65% off savings. Their annual plan is just $44.99 for the first year with our exclusive discount. This is the time to sign up. With our discount, their current promotion, you get a VPN for 65% off the usual offering. And IPVanish is the best of best. They've got a 4.7 out of 5 on Trustpilot with over 6,000 reviews. Remember, it's ipvanish.com/malice to get the deal and start protecting yourself online. Let's get back to the show. I have to ask because I know your response is going to be absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
What are you? I can't wait. What are your thoughts on having your fellow countrywoman and possible distant cousin, Officer Harris, one heartbeat away from the presidency? Do you have Jamaican pride?
Oh, you're talking about Kamala?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Listen to some Snoop.
You know what's funny about Kamala, man?
That her father wouldn't even go to the inauguration, even though he lives 5 minutes away.
Are you serious?
Yes. Did you not? He completed this about her. He goes, on behalf of me and my Jamaican family, we're having nothing to do with your foolishness.
Really?
Yes. He's a professor. Yes.
Why?
He's like, he had her number from the jump.
Oh, wow. Because he knew she was on some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claiming she's Indian and all this. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamaicans don't play. They would disown your ass.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. They
Like
did.
I read her book. Someone paid me to read her book, and halfway through, she stops mentioning dad, and then he's not at the wedding. I'm like, oh, what's going on here, officer?
Yeah. You know how many times my dad threatened to disown my ass? Shit.
Well,
See?
why are you talking to trans women in Miami?
He better not see this.
Yeah, sorry, Dad. Dad, don't look at this.
Watch this one. You know, the scary thing about Kamala is, so we know we have Joe Biden as president, and basically that means that there's a vacant seat.
Yeah.
So is she so incompetent that she can't even, that they don't even trust her to take the vacant seat?
Don't you think that's clearly the case?
That's scary.
Like, to be less likable than Hillary Clinton is saying a lot. How is it that you have a huge war chest and you can't even get Black people to vote for you in the Democratic primary? She didn't even make it to Iowa.
Right. Yeah. It's scary to see, because first of all, it's scary to see because, like, all right, like, who's running the country? Because it's definitely not Biden, because he's not there. It's cruel that they propped him up to do that on some, Weekend at Bernie's type stuff. But then it's like Kamala's there, and it's just like, I predicted, I said, Biden is probably gonna have a heart attack, keel over, and then they're gonna put her in, or they're just gonna say he's not fit to do the job and they're gonna bring her in, and they haven't done that yet, which means to tell me that they're like, we can't trust her to even be a puppet. She's not even competent enough to take direction. Yeah. And she's willing to take the direction.
Of course.
It's not like she's gonna fight the system, but she's not even competent enough than the guy who's damn near suffering from dementia.
I mean, this is a woman who, like, if someone asks her, President Harris, a bunch of school children were raped and murdered over the weekend, she just starts laughing. She laughs at everything.
Right. And you're like, no, we can't have her do this. This is much worse than Biden. Yes. And I'm like, damn, where are we as a country if this is the two people running the show, or in executive power, or occupying executive seats, to say it better?
But do you think that that's a symbol of the strength of the regime or its weakness? Because here's the argument for both. It could be a symbol of strength because they dragged this carcass over the finish line. At the same time, like, this is the best they could do. This is not someone who's charismatic or influential.
Exactly. You can make arguments for both sides. Bingo. But the fact that these are the two best people they could come up with lets you know, and this is where the white pill comes in, that there's hope.
Yeah.
That there's hope, because this is all they got. Like, come on, like, y'all can't beat this.
Right. Thank you. That's my line. Exactly. Like, you look at, these are unstoppable foes to you, a corpse and this giggling cop.
Like, how disorganized you have to be.
Right. Yeah.
To lose to this. Like, I say to people all the time, like, so for example, there was that viral video last week of some sort of debate between a professional and some girl about abortion. And she's trying to, get hints from the protest signs behind her because she's getting destroyed in debate. And I'm saying to the people, I'm like, these are the people you're afraid of? The people who are mentally not capable of arguing their side? This is why you're afraid to speak up. You're afraid to speak up to lose your job, or, or be ostracized from society. But it's just like, you should want to be ostracized from that type of society.
Exactly. Yes.
You should be lining up for that to create the new or the old, or however you look at it.
Of what value is their approval? if I'm hiring my team, if I'm getting my army together, if someone can't hold it together and they're flipping out and screaming, I can't hide, because the enemy will be like, wait, I hear screaming and crying. There must be over there at the very least.
At the very least. Yeah. So I'm looking like, this is the people y'all are intimidated by? These pussy hats? I'm like, this is ridiculous, which comes back to the fact that what we're dealing with is on the right is an unintellectual people, an uninformed people, a misled people, and unorganized people. And probably I can keep going on with, the diagnosis of their problem. But I think it comes down to lack of intellect and being misled. And I feel bad for the conservatives, because look at their leaders, right? So for example, like, now they're saying, oh, Trump's hanging out with Johnson and Johnson and he's pumping the vacation and all this stuff. And I'm just like, dude, your favorite pundit took it.
Yeah.
The network that your pundit worked for mandated it. You're mad at Trump for what everybody in your side of the aisle did? They all sat down with their doctor and took the vacation. Ben Shapiro, he took it.
Yeah.
He took it. So what are you mad about? Secondly, you all believed in this technology, the vacation. I'm not saying mRNA, but the vacation. You believed in this technology at a time where Hoteps did not. And when I was saying to the right prior to the pandemic, I was telling them like, yo, these vacations are not cool. We're giving them to kids. They're not cool. We're not talking about the adverse reactions. We're not talking about who's the deposition with from The Godfather. It'll come back to me. But we're not looking at people hurt by these things, right? And we're not looking at better ways in which to create immunity in the community, right? Variolation versus vacationation, right? And the right was like, oh, what are you, some sort of anti-vacationer? This is before the pandemic. So now I'm like, no, you set yourself up for this because you never questioned this since 1976 when they first had that, I think it was the swine flu pandemic, and they tried to mandate turned out that was a nothing burger, right? Look up swine flu 1976 for that story. I think it came out of Fort Dix or something like that. But you've never questioned your government on all these medical procedures, and now it's here and you want to act all high and mighty like Trump is wrong, but you've been injecting your kids with this stuff since birth because they need to attend to school. I don't want to hear it. I'm supporting Trump in the next election because we don't got a better option.
You don't think DeSantis is a better option than Trump?
I think if we want to win the next election, they better be a team. What is it called? It's
ticket.
A ticket.
Yeah.
They should be a ticket.
But I don't think DeSantis would take number 2 because then you got to deal with Trump's bullshit and defend it.
Damn. I think he should though. I look at DeSantis running by himself and Trump running by themselves as taking a chance. I see them as a ticket as being unstoppable. You know what I mean? Like if they ran together, like, oh my God, people would just lose their mind. The left would lose their mind and the conservatives would just be so rallied because DeSantis is basically Trump. He's not like an intellect, right? He's just a guy with good rhetoric, a little bit ignorant, and that's good, right? You want a little bit of ignorance in your leaders, right? Because you don't want them so smart that they can just outsmart you, right? And pretend.
Yeah, get over and
get over
the back door. Yeah,
right. What you see is what you get. You don't want a good actor. So I just think they should be a ticket, man.
What did you think of Trump during his last year? I think a lot of people felt, and I would agree, that he went out kind of like an asshole.
Yeah, he did. I think it was very pompous. It was very egoic, especially him saying, Operation Warp Speed, blah, 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 blah. But all of that stuff was to prove the left wrong, right? It like even now he's really just saying it because at one point the left were saying it wasn't possible to get this technology out.
Right. He's lying. He's lying when he says we're going to get it taken care of. Right.
Right. And then he does it. And I think that's the only thing he's trying to express is to show that the left lied to you. They said it wasn't possible. Now I'm out and now it's here. And now they're backing it. Because when it was Trump's vacation, nobody wanted it. Now it's Biden's vacation. Everybody's signing up for it and it's mandated and all this other stuff. So that's how I sort of looked at that situation.
But I just also thought it was really crappy what he did to the January 6th people. He didn't lift a finger to speak on their behalf or defend them. And those are his people. And if you don't look out for your own people, what good are you as a person, regardless of politics?
Trump gonna look out for Trump.
Yeah, right. That's what I think a lot of people are realizing. Like that criticism of him was spot on.
I know. I don't blame him. Shit. It's like jail time or these idiots. These people that'll bail on you in a moment's notice because you back in Johnson & Johnson, right? Fuck yeah, I'm not going to jail. Especially if you're going to turn your back on me because I'm in alignment with some corporation. Like people are very fickle.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Hotep following is quite different because we're together based upon principles. But the relationship between Trump and his base was frivolous to begin with. Right. Again, it was just a reaction to the left.
Yeah.
It wasn't really based upon any hardcore principles. Because if it was, you wouldn't have needed Trump. You could have got somebody more solid, more intellectual. It was based upon principles. Really, it's just based upon some game. So I didn't see the relationship between Trump and his base being strong enough for him to defend them after January 6th. Nobody told your punk ass to go inside the goddamn Capitol. Trump ain't tell you how to do that. I'm not defending you. I wouldn't defend people who stormed the Capitol. Why would I do that?
Well, because it was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
Some of those images were absolutely hilarious. And
I kind of contradicted myself because I do defend those people.
And that's why you're never going to be president. That's the one reason.
Exactly.
Other than that, you were shooing. Hey guys, did you know that psychiatrist visits can cost up to $500 a session, and then traditional therapy visits are over $100 a session, which means thousands of dollars a year? Well, Cerebral is an online mental health service that offers prescription medication, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and more. One of the few services that offers prescription medication online through a licensed provider, and they ship medication straight to your door. You can skip the pharmacy lines. And with their app, it's like having your personal care team wherever you are. You can message your care team and access self-care resources wherever you are. These are affordable treatments that are 1/3 the price of traditional therapy, and treatment options are available with or without insurance. Connect with your app. Schedule sessions based on what's convenient for you. You don't have to wait weeks to be seen, and you can do your sessions on a laptop or a phone, so you can always find an area at home where you're most comfortable. 50% of Cerebral's clinicians identifies people of color. It's important to Cerebral to have that diversity so everyone can get the treatment they deserve. And for listeners of this program, you can receive 65% off your first month of medication management and care counseling at cerebral.com/YW. So go to cerebral.com/YW for over 65% off your first month. That's a total of just $30 to get started. You can join Cerebral today on their mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all.
This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Fetisi.
I love hearing people's stories of resilience and grit. This is why I created this podcast.
We are very excited to welcome Jim Gaffigan, Yasmin Mohammed, Glenn Beck, Tim Dillon, Abigail Schreier, Jeff Garland, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, Heather Hying,
Jonah Goldberg,
Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, Sarah Shahi, Colin Quinn.
If there's a culture of victimhood, then let's tell stories of grit and survival.
Subscribe and listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's get back to the show. Do you think, something I have seen, which I never expect to see in my lifetime, was it seems to me, and it's not just DeSantis, for the first time in our lifetimes, the Republican Party is going on offense. And do you agree with that as well, or am I delusional?
They're going on offense on two fronts. They're going on offense against the progressives, but they're going on offense against their own party, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
To keep that legacy in there, that legacy republicanism, right? The McCains of the world, right? Passing that lineage on, holding those seats to those families and not allowing real republicanism in. So yeah, they're definitely, and I got that from Sonny Johnson. I don't want to still, credit and act like I'm the smartest guy in the world. But Sonny Johnson's one that put that on my table, and I was like, wow, that's wild. So yeah, they're definitely on the offensive. But why did you say they're on offensive with the progressives?
Things like DeSantis with Disney and bills like that. Gun rights, instead of just reacting, it's like, you know what, we're gonna, like when Governor Abbott here in Texas, there are all these illegal immigrants, he put them on a bus to DC. Like stunts like this would have been unthinkable, I think, 10 years ago. To go after Disney as a Republican, which is always has been really the epitome of corporate America in the worst sense. Yeah, it would have been a third rail in politics.
I mean, when you think Florida, you think Disney too, right? So culturally, Disney is Florida. Exactly. Yeah. I think what it is like certain governors have had their back pushed against the wall, and if they're going to keep their positions, they got to show and prove to the people.
Yeah.
right? The people are looking like, yo, it's kind of gotten a little too far. Like, what are you going to do? And I think a lot of the stuff that governors are doing is just part of their campaign, right? Like trying to keep a hold of their spot and their base.
Absolutely.
Like when I see what DeSantis does, I don't see it as something that he's doing because he believes in it, although he may. I see it as him trying to win an election.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's campaigning. Yeah. But it isn't offensive. It's I wouldn't have did the Disney thing. I think that's unfair to the local community, you know, because who gonna take on that tax burden?
Right.
You know, there's implications that happen in that municipality that the standards just think through before he puts that on people, right? Because you can cause some serious problems in the municipality. But I think it's just a stunt, you know.
Yeah, but I think things like he's now, I don't know if you saw this, and I would think this would be right up your alley. They passed a bill in Florida mandating a day where they have to teach kids about the victims of communism. So that's the kind of thing where the New York Times would want that to be swept under the rug, and other such agencies. And now school children have to learn, what does this mean and why is it bad? That's a big deal, in my opinion. And I know he's playing to the Cubans. I'm not going to deny that, but that's still a good play.
So my anarchist shit is like tingling, like, oh, mandating things in education,
Sure,
right? It's
I got
like
you.
on that side of things, but on the other side, I'm like, ooh,
This is the one, right?
Ooh, like that. But then it's also, we got the zero win, because you can teach somebody about communism, but are you really teaching them what they need to know about communism? Because if you're not going back to how bullshit the Bolshevik Revolution is, anything after that is ridiculous. Like, I think you really need to show people the Bolshevik Revolution, Russian history. Like, if you don't teach Russian history, you can't teach communism.
Right, that's true.
You know, so I want, like, when I say they're mandating that, like, let's start giving them suggestions for books to implement in that curriculum, right? So that they are getting the right information, because you can gloss over communism and say, oh, just communism's bad, but you need to know fundamentally, one, how it's brought about and proliferated, and two, why it's bad. Economically, the centralization of power, et cetera, et cetera. But importantly, how does it come about? Because if you look at how it comes about, then you're going to start to see it as it springs up in your municipality, your state, and your federal government. And that's important, because people need to be able to spot it and then say, how are we going to thwart this problem? You know what I'm saying? But I think people need to know how things come about, and then how they work.
Were you nervous doing Rogan again? I'm always nervous when I do it. Not, and because then when I leave, I'm like, what did I just say? Because it's 3 hours and you don't remember what you said.
God, it's so stressful.
It is, right? I know this is like first world problems, boo-hoo, out on Rogan, it's stressful, but it's a real thing.
Bro, like, my stomach hurts for 2 days.
Yeah.
Until like, I don't feel better until the reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because then, like, directly afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck did I say? Should I?
You can't be on
that?
for 3 hours unless you're a total sociopath. It's not possible. Right? So you're gonna say some stupid shit, like, and then you're gonna be like, did they catch the stupid shit I said? Or are they gonna say something I said that wasn't stupid was stupid?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I called my friends and I'm like, all right, so where did I fuck up at? And they're like, no, you were fine. You were fine. It was good. It was a good episode. It just seemed like a fun conversation, you know? So I'm like, okay, now I couldn't eat yesterday, bro.
Yeah.
It's so nerve-wracking, because it's like, I think the biggest nerve-wracking piece is the people that love you and not wanting to let them down.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's what troubles me most. Like, did I live up to their expectations? And every time I do it, I say no. In hindsight, like, people like text me now, like, or tweeting me now, oh, the episode was amazing. And I'm like, man, that shit was some mid, bro.
But
like,
it's also funny when they're like, oh, you just did Rogan. Did you talk about X? And it's like, no. Like, but I don't want to say no.
That
Oh, did you bring
too.
this up? No.
No, I forgot. Yeah. But it's very nerve-wracking sitting in that seat. This episode, the nerves didn't settle till probably 2 hours in, you know. Plus you got the camera pointing at you and you can see yourself on the other side of the camera and you're like thinking about everything. So I'm just trying to stay present, right? So I asked my friends, I'm like, could you tell I'm nervous? They're like, no, you were nervous? It's just like, all right, so I did a good job hiding that. But I think it's just because you kind of just stay present that you don't show the nerves. They're all here. They're not like physical. Like they never make it out of your mind. Because sometimes nerves, like your hands move.
Yeah.
They never reach it there. It's all up here, right?
It's like if you're holding a handgun and pointing at someone that, God forbid, you have to shoot them, your hands might be very, very steady because they're trained. That's what you got to do. Not that I'm a gun person, but
right.
your brain is still going to be like, okay, this is no joke. This is not the dress rehearsal. This is life-changing and a big deal.
Yes, that's the thing. Joe Rogan's life-changing.
Yeah,
it's life-changing. I'll go to the Bitcoin conference. I walk through the well pass line, right? And the lady stops me and she's like, who are you? Like, because I'm some black guy with dreads. Like if I was a white dude who dressed like Silicon Valley, she'd be like, all right, he looks like he belongs here. But here's this hip dressing black dude with dreadlocks. Like, I need to know who this guy is because he's obviously special.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm Hotep Jesus. And she's like, I don't know who that is. Like gives me one of those type things. So I'm like, I know to get her. So I'm like, I was on Rogan. She goes, oh my God, Joe Rogan. Hold on. Where's my phone? Take a picture. And I'm just
if you like Rogan so much, then you should know who I am, bitch.
You should know, right.
Google it.
You should have seen my episode.
One of them. It's not the only.
Right. So and it but that kind of shows you how big Rogan is and how life-changing he can be, right? And then you just have that situation where people just recognize you in the street, and that's kind of odd to deal with. But I'm exactly where I thought I wanted to be. I'll say that.
What's that mean?
Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a celebrity. Then you sort of become one, and you're like, all right, this wasn't the right dream. I did everything to get here, and now I'm just like, U-turn.
Yeah, but when you were a kid, you didn't think I'm gonna become famous for like a Starbucks stunt.
No.
It's a white girl.
Right. And be in the political lane and talking about life and society. I thought I was gonna be a rapper, or I thought I was gonna be an actor. I thought I was gonna be a stand-up comedian. Like these are the things I wanted to be, an entertainer. Right. I didn't want to be like life and society breakdown guy, but that's where it brought me to, because I was in the entertainment industry. I did very well for myself. I rose those ranks and I worked with 50 Cent. And then while being in the entertainment industry, I realized I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And then blowing up in this circuit, I'm like, you kind of have to accept it because I can't turn back now. You just got to keep going forward. God put this on my plate and I have a duty to the people. I gotta live up to that, right? Like people look to me to help them. So
where is you, and you have helped a lot of people. Where can people learn more about your work? I know you got a couple of books too.
BryanSharp.co, BryanSharpe.co. I just wrote the Patriot Report, Unmasking the Conspiracy of Money and War, which is a connection between central banking and the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the World Wars. I could have even did Vietnam, but I didn't. I was like, it's just way too much research. I had to stop somewhere. But what the problem was, I saw that people had too much trust in government, right? And I'm like, well, maybe if I go do research and show them that this country has been bullshit from the very beginning.
Exactly. Right. That's the thing. These conservatives think when the liberals took over Hollywood, when was Hollywood not run by like literal communists? What are you talking about? You are crazy.
Yeah. So for example, right, in my book, I cover Robert Morris, right? And the North American Bank, right? So there's a first bank of the United States, but that's technically the second central bank, right? So the first bank, I believe, had a sum of $20 million, and I believe 18 million of it was brought about by Robert Morris. And in fact, you have stories of George Washington needing money for the war and saying, go get Robert Morris, right? So a lot of people don't even know who Robert Morris is. And I'm like, how is it we talk about all these forefathers and love and 1776, but you don't know the guy who put the money in the bank at first?
Yeah, he wrote the check for the Revolutionary War, basically.
He wrote
single-handedly. Yeah.
How do we not know that? He wrote the check for the war. You know about who fought in the war and who said this, but you don't know the guy who funded it. And then you look at the bank, and I believe it was Rothbard I read this from, but he basically said it was tantamount to embezzlement, because obviously Robert Morris wasn't funding it all out of his pocket. He was raising money, right? But then it goes into the central bank, and from the central bank lent to Robert Morris's bank, and then from Robert Morris's bank, he's cutting it to himself, right? So it's just like some Ozark type of shit going on here. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, so what does it say about your country that this is how your first bank operated? Because I always say, if the money ain't free, the people ain't free. Right?
Of course, yeah, 100%, yeah.
So what does it say about your country when you can't even trust the first bank that was created? That means like all types of shit was going on in government if he was able to get away with this, So that's why I went and did the research on that. And also because I think people need to understand monetary policy. I think they need to understand, I don't dive too much into the economics, but I think they need to understand the Bretton Woods Agreement and the impact that had on inflation and the devaluing of the dollar and the decoupling. Because people always, when they think about gold, people always talk about, oh, Nixon. Like, man, Nixon was reacting to the failure of the Bretton Woods Agreement. Like, let's talk about 1971, the Bretton Woods Agreement, and how they made United States basically back all the foreign currencies with gold, while they were able to siphon the gold out of the United States and go to France and all these other places. Who knows where that gold is, right? So, I just wanted to show people that from a very it's conspiratorial, but it's not conspiracy theory.
It's not hidden.
It's right.
It's no one's denying this, that Robert Morris wrote these checks. There's no thumbtacks and string. This is in every history book, but they just kind of don't focus on it because they don't want you thinking about it too much.
Right. And then even like the Bretton Woods Agreement, this is all like fact, like that they made United States the reserve
currency. Yeah.
The dollar was reverse. And then so France can basically print money it's backed by the USD, and then redeem the USD for gold.
Yeah.
That's wild. So I just want people to understand little shit like that, because then they might be able to understand why we have inflation now.
Which hurts the poorest. You would think that the Democratic Party, which is ostensibly for the little guy, you would think that they'd at the very least blame Trump. You could say, look, this was Trump. Crazy spending. It started in 2017. We're fiscally responsible. We know it hurts the poor, and they are acting like just like nothing's going on, or like it'll be over tomorrow. And I'm like, this, when you're gas, or I can afford if a sandwich goes from $6 to $9, but if I'm on living paycheck to paycheck and I got to feed my kids, that is a daily stress that people who are poor don't need.
Yeah,
it's awful and unconscionable.
And then they default the blame to somebody else, right? Like, oh, it's Putin, or what they say about that.
Putin's making it so there's no fucking formula.
Well, but now she said that people are hoarding formula.
Well, why were they hoarding formula unless scarcity is on the horizon? No one's hoarding Pogs. Or soda.
People are hoarding food because there's food shortages, you dumbass.
They're not all crazy. Okay, we're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your favorite part of this interview?
You know me, I just love talking about communism. Again, like, you can't study white history without talking about communism. You know what I mean? And I think it's the most interesting part of Western history, right? Let me read this quote before we get out of here, because I need people to see this quote from what was his name? Vladimir Ilyich Lenin or something like that. So it says here, our power does not know liberty or justice. It is entirely established on the destruction of the individual will. And we talked about this, destruction of the individual. We are the masters. And this is the part that scared me. It says, complete indifference to suffering is our duty. In the fulfillment of our calling, the greatest cruelty is a merit. So when we look at our government now, we see the massive suffering. I just think Lenin, like, wow, these people have indifference to suffering. And that's Marxism. That's communism. And people think, oh, Democratic Republic, right? That's what they say we are. Well, what was the intermediate government that was installed after they overthrew the Tsar? A Democratic Republic under the Duma. And here we are.
You are welcome.
All this month, stream the funniest films for free on Pluto TV. Watch comedy classics like Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, and Mean Girls. Or drop in for a Tyler Perry marathon with a Madea family funeral and Medea's witness protection. Pluto TV also has hundreds of channels and thousands of movies and TV shows like Get Shorty, Be Cool, Key and Peele, Comedy in Color, and more. And no contracts, no subscriptions, no fees, no joke. So download the Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start laughing today. Pluto TV, drop in, watch free.